Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I saw this. Many of you who have been listening for a while, you know that I had my now 18-year-old in a batting cage the whole time he was growing up, and it used to be so easy. But now when he comes home from JUCO and he needs to keep his arm in shape, he's a lefty pitcher. And I saw this going around this morning. This is exactly how I feel when he comes home. I literally can't catch him anymore. It's frustrating. I identified with this. So Dad knew right then and there his teachings were no longer needed. For me, my son's a lefty pitcher. He's getting up into the 85 to 87 range, and I am. And the ball's when a lefty throws it, that ball is moving, and I don't pick the ball up till it's 5 feet in front of my face. It's gotten too scary for me at this point. I'm out. I can help him in other ways. Now, look, this is when Gary Gensler was proudly telling everyone that he was going to go on CNBC to lie about his legacy, if that's what you want to call it, at the SEC. But I always find it funny. If anybody is getting what they deserve, look no further than the comments under any Gary Gensler tweet. Here's him in jail. Peter Brandt, who in the world would ever believe anything the Rat Man would have to say? You're still here. It's over. Go home. Go. You do fit perfectly with CNBC. Both are spreading lies. Gary Clown Gensler, get the F out. You're fired. And here's old Gary.
Altcoins, you, Joe. But right. in terms of Bitcoin, we at the SEC have never said it's a security.
Well,
I have not.
What do you think? You taught it, Emma.
Now, this is something I may never have discussed on this channel, but I'm going to discuss it now. Even Gary giving Bitcoin the commodity designation, it has been a lie. As far as, and I'll show you what I mean.
I think you know. You got to have some kind of feeling. You've read the books, Bitcoin Standard.
Yeah. I think that Bitcoin is a highly speculative, volatile asset, but with 7 billion people around the globe, 7 billion people want to trade it, just like we do have gold for 10,000 years. We have Bitcoin. It might be something else in the future as well. Right. These other thousands of projects need to show their use case and show that they actually have fundamentals underlying them, or they won't persist, Joe.
Oh my God, you own Bitcoin.
That's where the public. That's why the public needs disclosure.
That's what it's.
I don't.
You love it.
I've never owned.
You love it. You don't like those other coins.
I've never owned any of these, and I've been consistent for 7 or 8 years on this.
Well, now you can, because you won't be a SEC chair anymore.
Hey, Gary.
Okay, so let me tell you why that's a lie. What is it that, I mean, all the digital assets that Gary Gensler has gone after, he's gone after them because there's a third party issuer, right? Remember the Hinman speech when he said, "Oh, we just don't see a third party issuer," and he lied. He knew there was a third party issuer, or I think that was the term he used. But anyway, that's the whole reason they've left Bitcoin alone. Well, that's a lie. They know who the third party issuer is. Let me prove it. I've shown you the 4 Satoshis video where Homeland Security admits that they met with the 4 Satoshis, so they know who it is. Well, what is not talked about near as much is that there were two.
So I want them to keep their jobs and
hold on a second. There were 2 SEC officials that were sitting there listening to the Homeland Security say it. This is back in, I think, 2019. So they knew the identities of the 4 Satoshis. The SEC knew. The government knew. And they've lied about it. Here it is.
But in all seriousness, I think this was the best demonstration that I could come up with is how cryptocurrency works. This is not going to be a technical explanation. Maybe the guy from SEC Martin, right? No? You don't want to do a technical explanation of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or the blockchain? I do want to say that both of these folks are government employees, SEC and Homeland Security, so anything that I say certainly does not reflect upon them or their agencies, because I want them to keep their jobs and, have wonderful careers.
So let that sink in. You've got now, I'm not making the point that Bitcoin should not be a commodity. What I'm saying is Bitcoin should not be given any special treatment. All of these digital assets should be called a commodity because it's a totally different technology. It doesn't apply to the 1930, ruling and all that stuff. That's been the whole point. But what I am saying is there's a reason that they lied about Bitcoin. And we even know the two agents that were there. Martin Zerwitz and Jane Norberg. Martin Zerwitz, Jane Norberg from the Office of the Whistleblower at the SEC. So we've been lied to about this whole thing. Gary is a great liar, and he's done really well at it. But I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh yeah, Bitcoin's a commodity and everything else is questionable. No. All of these should have been given a framework, including Bitcoin, where we could build this industry. Bitcoin's not special. They know who created it. That's been the lie, folks. By the way, while I was watching the lead up to the Gary Gensler interview, I saw not one, not two, not three, but 4 commercials. 3 of them were from Franklin Templeton starting to advertise for digital assets, and one of them was, I believe, a Solana. They mentioned Solana in the commercial, and I think they were talking about an ETP or an ETF or something coming. I don't know. Just when you think Gary can't lose anymore, Paul Graywall yesterday, we just won our petition for writ of mandamus at the Third Circuit, rebuking SEC for its order denying our rulemaking petition. The court held that the SEC's order was conclusory and insufficiently reasoned, and thus arbitrary and capricious. We grant Coinbase's petition in part and remand the SEC for more complete explanation. And Stuart Alderati decided to weigh in on this. Check this out. Huge congrats to Paul Graywall and Coinbase. In Gensler's final days, his anti-crypto crusade is imploding, and a federal appeals court has laid bare what the industry has said for years. His selective enforcement of securities laws was a not-so-covert attempt to ban the industry outright. Shameful. We properly remand the SEC to explain itself. It should not give another poor explanation in an already long line of them. New inventions create new fraud risks. The agency needs to guard against them, but sporadically enforcing ill-fitting rules against crypto companies that are trying to follow the law goes way beyond fighting fraud. It targets a whole industry and risks de facto banning it. On remand, that's what they were trying to do through this Operation Choke Point 2.0, the stuff they were doing at the Federal Reserve, folks. On remand, the SEC must grapple with that problem. Now, my calendar just fell. This was interesting yesterday because, now you got Coinbase and all these companies doing victory laps. But remember, don't ever forget, look at this first. U.S. SEC now under federal court order to fully explain why the agency refused to offer clear crypto rules. Never forget, folks. I don't want you ever to forget. All these guys like Coinbase are now doing victory laps. But before the XRP army went at the SEC and started a bonfire pointing out the corruption, before that, all of those people were sitting on the sidelines for it. I think it was over 2 years. I said 1 year. I think it was over 2 years. They were sitting on the sidelines hoping that Ripple got hurt by this, not realizing that they were going to be targets as well. So 2 things were accomplished. We proved them wrong because John Deaton was calling them out and saying, no, don't think that just because they're going after Ripple and you don't like Ripple, that you're off the hook. And they didn't believe it. They thought it was just Ripple. They later found out. But 2 things were accomplished. That, and for the first time in history, the XRP army showed that you could go and challenge an SEC that's out of control and publicly humiliate them until you create such a bonfire of truth that everybody joins in. And that's when all these other companies joined in. They said, hey, they just showed us the model. for fighting the SEC. Social media combined with attorneys and Ripple and all of this. That combination was the 1-2 punch. It was like a Mike Tyson uppercut after he's hit you in the side of the head 2 or 3 times. And that is what created the entire atmosphere for what we've been living through. And all the way leading up to the election and getting his ass kicked out, folks. This is John Deaton from October 20th, 2020.
Deaton, your host and founder. And I'm going to prove to you in this video why, even if you hate the company Ripple, and even if you despise the digital asset XRP, you better be praying that the SEC fails in what it is attempting to do. Now notice that I didn't say that you should root for Ripple. I didn't say that you should root for XRP. I phrased it that you better hope that the SEC falls flat on its face in what it is attempting to do, in this case, SEC versus XRP. On December 22nd, 2020, the SEC filed its complaint against Ripple. And I sat down and I read it on Christmas Eve, December 24th. And after I read that complaint and read how broad it was and how it could be applied to every crypto asset, I began writing the writ of mandamus, which I filed 6 days after the SEC's complaint on January 1st, 2021, asking the SEC to only limit their claims against Ripple and the way Ripple sells XRP. And that's why I said the biggest misconception out there is that the SEC is only claiming that the way Ripple sells XRP, that it's a security. And that is simply not true. Because after my writ of mandamus, where I was saying, listen, you should only be going after Ripple and the way Ripple sells it, the SEC filed its first amended complaint on February 19th.
All right, you get the point. Check this out, folks. JP Morgan predicts Solana and XRP ETFs could attract $3 to $8 billion in new investments if approved, with SEC decisions expected by late January. If I'm reading that right, they're saying XRP at a 3% penetration would be at $4.30, 6% penetration, $8.40. I believe it's going to bust out more than 6% penetration. And what about when BlackRock, JP Morgan, or Goldman Sachs announces an XRP ETF? How about them apples? Let me give you all a little reminder. What you're about to see, I did an interview a long time ago with Greg Kidd. And then remember, Elon Musk he's one of the biggest government contractors there is. I've always had a theory that Elon Musk was involved with XRP/XLM, either one or both, or all the above. Greg Kidd told me that at a poker game of payments guys in Silicon Valley, he found out about Ripple, okay? And has never revealed 2 or 3 of the guys there. And I know one of the guys that was there, I've been told. And if you knew the guy that I do know and his relation to Elon Musk, it would blow your mind. But I can't say it. I promise not to. So I want you to watch this. And I had a theory years ago that these Starlink satellites were what was going to allow us to bank the unbanked by having banks on your phone out in the middle of nowhere. I still believe that.
I'm wearing this jacket that was given to me by the Space Force. You know, it's got Star Trek Enterprise on it. You know, it's like Starfleet Academy. We want to make Starfleet Academy real, you know, and go out there and visit other star systems eventually and see if there are alien civilizations. Maybe there are alien civilizations that existed for millions of years, and we just find the ruins of many long dead alien civilizations. I don't know.
See, my hopes are tied up with his vision, but that's why I joined Ripple. I mean, when I joined Ripple, it looked like Bitcoin with 2 extra columns. currency and who issued that currency. And so I want to live in the Star Trek world. And in the Star Trek world, it doesn't matter whether you're a Klingon, a Romulan, Federation, you can all buy dilithium crystals. But you can't do that if your form of value is all in a silo. And so Ripple was the first that basically had if you will, an intergalactic currency, something that could go everywhere. The great thing, though, I mean, Bitcoin had that as well, but in Bitcoin, you could only have Bitcoin. On Ripple, you could have both the XRP, but you could also have a representation of all the other fiat currencies. So there was a way in and a way out.
And that's David Schwartz with his U.S. Space Force shirt on. Good figure. And folks, now we've got Trump. It came out yesterday that he's going to issue executive orders related to crypto policies on the first day in office. Trump to repeal SOB 121. This executive order will allow banks to custody Bitcoin, unlocking massive adoption. Congress passed it last year, but Biden vetoed it. Trump's team made it clear this is priority number one. This completes Saylor's $5 million Bitcoin trifecta spot, ETFs, fair value accounting. SOB 121 repeal equals banks plus Bitcoin, not just Bitcoin, crypto. The repeal of a controversial crypto accounting policy requiring banks holding digital assets to count them as liabilities on the bank's own balance sheet. Let's see what else we have here. All right, what I'm going to do, I wanted to make you there's a very fascinating thing that came out, someone that's predicting where things are going with Ripple. And I'm going to show you that, and I'll play this first when we get into DAIXRP.com. And then we're going to talk about, boy, these chart guys are getting excited, folks. We're going to show you some of that too. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Head to DAIXRP.com.